Before we start, hit like and subscribe to Ear Candy English and share this with a friend who keeps saying, I forget everything. Seriously, do it now, because this one video can save you hours of stress later. Quick question. Have you ever met someone, heard their name, smiled, and then forgot it 5 seconds later? Or you studied for 2 hours, felt confident, and then your mind went totally blank on the test? Or you walked into a room and thought, wait, why am I here? If that's you, you're not broken. You're not bad at memory. You're just using the wrong system, and nobody ever taught you the right one. In this video, I'm going to show you a simple, step-by-step way to remember names, facts, English words, and important ideas without feeling like your brain is a leaking bucket. And the best part? You don't need expensive courses, you don't need to be a genius, and you don't need to study 5 hours a day. You just need a few smart habits you can do in 5 minutes, like brushing your teeth. If you watch till the end, you'll learn how to make information stick, how to stop forgetting what you just learned, and how to feel calm and confident when you need to remember something fast. Plus, you'll pick up clear, real American English while you listen, because we keep it simple and beginner-friendly. So stay with me, because in a moment I'm going to reveal the real reason you forget so easily, and once you see it, you'll realize the problem was never your brain, it was your method. Let me ask you something honestly. Have you ever told yourself, I just have a bad memory, and then felt a little hopeless after saying it? What if that thought is completely wrong? What if your memory isn't weak at all? It's just never been trained the right way. That's exactly what step 1 is about, and once you understand this, everything starts to change. Most people think memory is something you're born with, like height or eye color. Either you have it or you don't, but that idea quietly destroys confidence. The truth is much simpler and much more hopeful. Memory is a skill, not a gift, and skills can be learned. Think about your brain like a library. Every day, names, English words, facts, numbers, and ideas walk in like new books. But if you don't place those books on a shelf, if you don't label them, if you don't ever come back to check on them, they don't magically stay organized. They get lost. That's why you can hear a name, understand it clearly, and still forget it 5 minutes later. It's not because you're careless. It's because your brain never moved that information from temporary space into keep this forever space. The good news is, once you know this, you stop blaming yourself. You stop saying, what's wrong with me? And start asking a better question. What can I do differently? And this applies to real life every single day. When you meet someone new, when you learn a new English word, when you read something important for work or school, you realize you don't need more effort, you need a better process. You repeat the name once, you connect the word to an image. You pause for a few seconds instead of rushing on. Those small actions tell your brain, hey, this matters. And your brain listens. The benefit is huge. Less stress, more confidence, and a feeling that your mind is finally working with you, not against you. And here's a small hook for what's coming next. Now that you know memory isn't broken, the next step will show you the one thing that decides what your brain keeps and what it throws away. Miss that, and nothing sticks. Get it right, and remembering becomes easy. Let me ask you something that might sound a little uncomfortable. When you forget things, are you really forgetting? Or were you never fully there in the first place? Think about it. How many times have you listened to someone talk while your mind was somewhere else? How many times have you read a page, nodded your head, and then realized you have no idea what you just read? That's exactly what step 2 is about, and it's a game changer. The truth is simple. You can't remember what you never truly noticed. Memory always starts with attention. Not talent, not intelligence, not age attention. Your brain is actually very smart. Every single day, it receives more information than it can handle, so it makes a choice. It keeps what you focus on and deletes what you ignore. That's not a problem. That's protection. The issue is that today, our attention is constantly split. We listen while checking our phone, we study while thinking about dinner, We watch a video while scrolling comments. So, later we say, I studied, but I forgot everything. No, you were there with your body, but your mind wasn't invited. Now here's the good news. Fixing attention doesn't mean sitting in silence for hours or becoming a monk. It means doing one small thing differently. When something matters, you pause. Just for 5 seconds, you look, you listen, you repeat it once in your head or out loud. That tiny moment tells your brain, this is important, save this. And your brain does exactly that. You can use this in real life today. When someone tells you their name, repeat it right away. Nice to meet you, Sarah. When you learn a new English word, stop and picture it. When you read something important, close the page and ask, what was the main idea? These are not big actions, but the benefits are huge. You start remembering names. English words stick longer. Studying feels lighter, not stressful. You feel present, calm, and in control. And here's a hook for what's coming next. Once your attention is awake, there's a powerful way to lock information into your memory using pictures instead of words. That next step will change how your brain remembers forever. Let me ask you something fun when I say the word apple. What do you see in your mind right now? You don't see the letters APPLE, right? You see a red apple, maybe shiny, maybe with a bite taken out of it. That simple moment explains step 3, and it's one of the biggest secrets of strong memory. Your brain does not think in words, it thinks in pictures, and when you understand this, remembering becomes much easier and much more natural. Most people try to remember information like a robot. They repeat words again and again, hoping they will stick. But words alone are boring to the brain. Pictures are alive. They have color, shape, emotion, and movement. That's why images stay and words disappear. Now think about how powerful this can be in real life. You meet someone named Lily. If you just think, Lily is her name, you will probably forget it. But if you imagine her holding a big white flower or her hair turning into lilies, your brain smiles and says, that's interesting. And just like that, the name stays. This works for English too. When you learn a new word, don't only read the meaning, turn it into a picture. If you learn the word storm, imagine heavy rain, loud thunder, dark clouds moving fast. The stronger and funnier the image, the better it sticks. You can even make it silly on purpose, because your brain loves strange things. The benefit of this step is huge. Studying becomes lighter. You stop forcing your memory. You start enjoying learning. English vocabulary becomes easier to remember. Lists stop disappearing from your mind, and you feel more confident because your brain finally has a clear way to store information. You can use this today with shopping lists, names, work tasks, or study notes. Just ask yourself one simple question. What picture can I make for this? That's it. One picture is often enough. And here's a small hook for what's coming next. Once you turn information into pictures, the next step shows you how to connect those pictures into a story. So your memory doesn't just hold one thing, but a whole chain that never breaks. Have you ever noticed that you can remember a movie story for years, but you forget a simple list in just 5 minutes? Why does that happen? That question leads us straight into step 4, and this step can completely change the way you remember things. The truth is simple. Your brain loves stories, not lists. Lists feel cold and disconnected. Stories feel alive. When information has no connection, your brain lets it go. But when information becomes a story, your brain holds on to it tightly. Think about your favorite movie or TV show. You remember the characters, what happened first, what happened next, and how it ended. You didn't try to memorize it, you just followed the story. That's exactly how memory works best. Now, imagine using this power in your daily life. Let's say you need to remember a list like milk, eggs, shoes, book, and cat. If you repeat it like a robot, it disappears fast. But if you create a short, funny story, everything changes. Picture this. A big carton of milk is wearing shoes and walking into your house. It slips on eggs, falls onto a book, and a cat jumps on top and laughs. It sounds silly, But that silliness is your secret weapon. Your brain remembers movement, emotion, and surprise. The benefit of the story method is huge. Studying feels less stressful. Remembering names, tasks, or English words becomes easier. You stop feeling frustrated with yourself. You start trusting your memory again. This method is perfect for learning English, too. New words become characters. Sentences become scenes. Grammar points become actions. In a small movie in your head. You don't need to be creative or smart. You just need to allow yourself to be a little playful. Even strange or childish stories work better than serious ones. You can use this at work, at school, or at home. Turn your to-do list into a story. Turn your study notes into a short movie. Turn vocabulary into a funny scene. And here's a small hook to keep you curious. Once you learn how to build stories in your mind, the next step will show you how to make those stories stay forever by reviewing them at the right time without studying for hours. Have you ever studied something, felt confident about it, and then a few days later realized it was completely gone? Why does that keep happening, even when you try so hard? This is where step 5 comes in, and it's one of the biggest game changers you will ever learn. The truth is simple but powerful. Learning something once is not enough. Your brain needs to see it again and again, at the right times. This is called spaced repetition, but don't worry about the name. The idea is very easy. Imagine writing a message in sand at the beach. At first it looks clear, but after a few hours, the wind and waves wash it away. Now imagine carving the same message into stone. It stays there for years. Repetition is what turns sand into stone. In real life, this means when you learn something new, an English word, a name, an idea, you don't just look at it once and move on. You come back to it later, even for just 1 minute. For example, you learn a new English word in the morning. At night, you quickly review it. The next day, you use it in a sentence. A few days later, you see it again and smile because it feels familiar. That's how your brain says, okay, this is important, I'll keep this. The benefit is huge. You stop feeling like everything disappears. You feel calmer when studying. You build real confidence because things actually stay in your memory. And the best part? You don't need long study hours. 5 minutes today is better than 1 long hour once a week. You can use this in daily life, not just studying. Want to remember someone's name? Repeat it later that day. Want to remember a task? Think about it again before bed. Want to remember English vocabulary? Review it the next morning while drinking coffee. Small, spaced moments create strong memory. Many people fail not because they are weak, but because they never return to what they learned. Spaced repetition fixes that. And here's a small hook for what's coming next. Once you know how to repeat at the right time, the next step will show you how to use emotion to lock memories in even deeper, so they stay with you for life, not just for exams. Have you ever noticed that you remember painful moments, happy surprises, or embarrassing mistakes clearly, but forget lessons you studied just yesterday? Why does that happen? Step 6 explains it, and once you understand this, memory will never feel confusing again. The secret is simple. Your brain remembers feelings, not facts. If something makes you feel something, even just a little, your brain treats it as important and keeps it. If it feels empty and boring, your brain deletes it fast. Think about your own life. You may not remember what you ate last Tuesday, but you remember the day someone praised you, broke your heart, or made you laugh so hard you cried. That's because emotion tells your brain, save this. You can use this power every day. When you learn a new English word, don't just read the meaning. Ask yourself, how does this word connect to my life? For example, the word failure. Don't think of it like a dictionary. Think about a time you failed but learned something important. Feel it for a second. Now that word sticks. The benefit is huge. Studying becomes more human, not robotic. You stop forcing memory and start feeling it. You remember faster, longer, and with less stress. You can apply this anywhere. Studying for exams, learning English, remembering names, or even planning goals. Add emotion. Smile, laugh, feel proud. Even fake emotion works better than none. You can say a sentence out loud with energy. You can imagine a funny or dramatic scene. You can connect what you learned to a personal story. These small actions wake your brain up. Many learners fail because they treat learning like a machine. But you are not a machine. You are human. When learning feels alive, memory stays alive. And here's a small hook for what's coming next. Once emotion locks memory in place, the next step will show you how teaching others can double your memory power and turn learning into something truly unforgettable. Have you ever noticed that you truly understand something only after you explain it to someone else? That is not an accident, and step 7 is built on that powerful idea. The fastest way to remember anything for life is to teach it, even if you think you are not good enough yet. Let me ask you a simple question. What if the reason you keep forgetting is not because you are bad at learning, but because you stop too early and never share what you learn? When you teach, your brain changes mode. You stop being a receiver and you become a creator. You don't just hear information, you rebuild it in your own words. That process locks memory deep inside your mind. The benefit is huge. You remember longer, you understand better, and you feel more confident. And the best part? You don't need a classroom or students. You can teach in many simple ways. You can explain a new English word to a friend. You can talk to yourself in the mirror. You can record a short voice note on your phone and pretend you are teaching someone. You can even write a short message online explaining one idea you learned today. All of these count as teaching. For example, if you learn the word focus, don't just read it and move on. Say out loud, focus means paying full attention. I lose focus when I check my phone too much. That's it. Now, the word belongs to you. This works in real life too. When you teach what you learn, you feel proud. You feel clear. Learning becomes active, not boring. Many people think teaching is only for experts. But that's wrong. Teaching is how you become one. And here's a small hook for what comes next. Once you start teaching, the next step will show you how placing ideas into familiar places can turn your memory into something almost visual, like walking through your own mind. Have you ever wondered why you can remember your childhood home clearly, but you forget what you studied yesterday? That question leads us directly to step 8, one of the most powerful memory tools you will ever learn. Your brain remembers places better than facts. Think about it. You may forget a phone number, but you never forget how to walk around your own house, even in the dark. That's because places feel safe and familiar to your brain. So what if you could store information inside places you already know? This is where the mind palace comes in, and it can change the way you remember everything. The benefit is simple but powerful. You stop forcing your memory, and you start using it naturally. To begin, choose a place you know very well, like your home, your school, or your favorite coffee shop. Close your eyes and imagine walking through it slowly. See the front door, the living room, the kitchen, the bedroom. Now here's the trick. When you want to remember something, place it inside one of those rooms using a strong picture. For example, if you want to remember a new English word like confidence, imagine a giant trophy sitting on your couch, shining and smiling at you. That picture sticks. Later, when you think about your couch, the word comes back automatically. You can use this in daily life too. Shopping lists, speeches, exams, English vocabulary, even your daily plans. Instead of writing everything in your head as boring text, turn it into a walk through a place you love. Your brain relaxes, and memory becomes easier. This works especially well for beginners because it feels playful, not stressful. And here's a small hook for the next step. Once your memories have a place to live, the next secret will show you the best time of day to lock them in forever, even while you sleep. Have you ever noticed that some days you wake up remembering things clearly, and other days your mind feels empty? What if I told you the last 10 minutes of your day can decide what your brain keeps forever? This is step 9, and it's one of the easiest habits with the biggest reward. Your brain doesn't sleep the way you think it does. At night, It quietly organizes your day and decides what is important and what can disappear. So the question is simple. What are you telling your brain is important before you go to sleep? The benefit of this step is powerful. You remember more without studying longer, and your mind feels calmer and clearer in the morning. Here's how to use it in real life. Before bed, put your phone down, just for a few minutes. Take a notebook or think quietly and review what you learned today. It can be 3 English words, 1 idea from a video, or 1 lesson from your day. Say them softly in your mind or out loud. Imagine them clearly. Then sleep. That small action sends a strong message to your brain. Keep this. Save this. Tomorrow morning, you'll feel the difference. You'll remember faster, and learning will feel lighter. Many people scroll social media before sleep and wonder why they forget everything the next day. It's not because they are bad learners. It's because they train their brain to remember noise instead of meaning. You can choose differently. This habit works for English learning, exams, work skills, even personal goals. 5 calm minutes can be stronger than 1 noisy hour. And here's a small hook for what comes next. Once your brain knows what to keep at night, the next step will show you how a simple pen and paper can lock those memories even deeper, like pressing save on your mind. Have you ever read something, felt like you understood it, and then the next day it was completely gone? So here's the question I want you to think about. What if one simple action could help your brain save information instead of letting it disappear? This is step 10, and it's one of the most powerful habits you can use every day. Writing things down is like pressing the save button in your brain. When you only read or listen, your brain stays relaxed and passive. It says, "Okay, nice," and moves on. But when you write, something changes. Your hand slows your thinking down. Your mind becomes active. You start to really understand, not just recognize words. The benefit is huge. You remember longer, you understand deeper, and you feel more confident using what you learned. You don't need fancy notebooks or perfect handwriting. You just need a pen and a few minutes. For example, if you learn a new English word today, don't just read it and move on. Write the word. Write a short meaning in simple English. Then write 1 sentence about your life. That's it. In less than 1 minute, that word becomes yours. This works for ideas too. After watching a video, write 1 sentence about what you learned. Not 10 sentences. Just 1. Your brain says, "Oh, this matters." And it keeps it. People who write remember more than people who only read. That's why diaries, notes, and journals are so powerful. You can use this at work, at school, or at home. Write your goals. Write lessons from your day. Write new words. Even writing 1 sentence a day can change how clearly you think. And here's a small hook for what's coming next. Once writing helps you save information, the next step will show you how to pull that information back out of your mind anytime you want, without looking at your notes.